Welcome one more time, welcome one, welcome all to your wonderful show this afternoon here on Galaxy Universal Network. Your program Sankofa, your host Maponga J. And we have an opportunity on this program to rewire our minds, visit the past, interrogate it, and look at the present, make sense out of it, and map up a new generation, map up a new tomorrow for ourselves and our children. And if there is anything that is of a crisis, this time around is a crisis of information. And where the young people who are with us don't have information, understanding, knowledge of where we are coming from. We have seen old people doing certain things. We don't even understand why those things were being done in the days past. And with me, I'll have a fleet of guests today. And I have the two wonderful ladies, Goku. I have also Princess Lorna with me, and King Bungane is on his way, but the daughter to Queen, what's her full name? Hunadi
Shai.
Queen Hunadi Shai had some complications, and I will allow the daughter to explain to us. Welcome to the show, and the party goes on. We're going to have a good time today.
Kamaku, welcome, and thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you. And Princess Lorna, tell us about Ugogo first before you tell us about yourself. What has happened to our mother now?
There's some hiccups. Welcome to our viewers, and thank you for having me. There's some hiccups with Mama. She's not feeling okay, but she's in our prayers.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Women's Month. Happy Women's Day to all.
All right. The queen whom we had allocated to come here, she was coming all the way from Limpopo, and as of the last day and a half, we were just hoping against all odds that her health would be good enough to travel. She would not be able to join us on the program. But her daughter is here, so we'll squeeze her here and there and get some information. My grandfather had a proverb that he usually loved, saying that when a king is advising his children, you as a stranger and you as a commoner, please sit up straight. Then you get an opportunity to learn also how the royalty treats its own children. And if you are living in a kingdom, then all of us are royal children in one way or the other. You may not have the royal blood in you, but you are living in a royal empire. The question is, how do we live and how do we manage each other to create for ourselves better environments and communities? And since we are advocating and calling the African not to lose his Africanness, the question is, what is it that makes an African an African? And I want to start right there with you, Gogo Mvoko, comparing the women of the past and the women of the present and the women of the future. Mm-hmm. Start with the first question. What were the women in ancient times, and what was their role for themselves, for their families, and for the greater community at large?
Thank you for the question. Before I answer that, I would like to say to all the women out there, happy Women's Month, happy Womb Month, and I wish you all the best that this month can bring. And for those who may not believe in the Women's Month for some other reasons per se, just respect the day for those who are celebrating it and allow us to enjoy ourselves.
But I have a problem with this Women's Month story. That's me as Maponga J, of course. I mean, with Valentine's, it's about women. Then with Women's Month, it's about women. Then their birthdays, it's about women. The other day I had my birthday, and it ended up being their birthday. And I'm wondering, what's up? I mean, we always end up on the receiving end, you know? We always end up on the receiving end.
And I just to take you on that one, because the woman is the mother of all the nature, mother of everything. So that's why we end up taking everything.
You know, they're taking over, yeah. I mean, honestly, they did balloons, they did the cakes. I don't eat cake. I said I wanted them to do and other things. No, they cooked a meal for themselves, a cake for themselves, and they enjoyed themselves on my behalf.
They're the one end up enjoying more than you. Okay, back to your question, Tatu Maponga. The women, the ancient women understood their role in the community. The ancient women understood the role of each and every individual or each and every family member. They had a way that will will then build the whole nation, build the society, build the village. If you remember back in the days, even now, we still have the saying that umntwana ngumntwana we village yonke. It's not umntwana wam.
It takes a village to bring up a child.
Yes. So now coming from that angle, the women back in the days understood that the kids that I bear is not only, and the kids from the neighbor, they are no different. They are both my children. So what happens is that when I bring up my child in a certain way, and I see my other child from the streets or from the neighborhood, and I do have the right to reprimand that child if they are doing wrong. And also the role that they had then to take upon themselves is to instigate and to cleanliness in respect and the way of how do you nature yourself as a woman, how do you take care of yourself as a female girl, and at the same time the way there were teachings that they used to happen back in the days based by our old, like Abo Goku Betu, Abo Mama Betu. There were different categories of these women. So from when the time the child is saying Dombazana, Kula, reaching a certain stage, there would be women who are older than her. They would be teaching her how do you take care of yourself as a woman, and then from there, when it gets to the stage of puberty, well, these are the things that you need to do as a girl. This is how you treat yourself as a girl. Specifically, the roles of understanding that as a girl, it's not only about you need to just when you go to the river, or you have to just fetch water, and think about outside the box to say, when I go to the river, when I come back home, I need to clean up the house, I need to be tidy, I need to cook, all those skills that we're being taught. Then another thing is that after that, this older woman, now when they get to a stage whereby they need to be, I would say, prepared, prepared, that's the right word, to now be a family woman. You know, there were certain aspects of nurturing to say, now you are going to be a woman, this is how you handle yourself.
It's what expected out of you.
Yes, and now when you are a married woman, this is how it's expected of you. But now, on top of that, women, even though back in the days they were not schooled, being a younger school, but they were very educated. Formal education, you mean? They didn't have formal education, but they were very educated because they had a way of managing wealth. You know, the wealth back in the days may not have been financial wealth, but it was a wealth that there's how many, what kind of food do we have at home? Do we have enough food at home? You know, there's cattle, there's whatever you. But now you find that is why when they say, when I've got so little food with me and I give it to the wife, she will expand it and make it enough for everybody. So that is a certain skill. You know, it's not something that you can go to the books and read about it, but it's some intellect. It comes with us. You know, that we are able to feed the nation with the little that we have. Expand it, mix up and come up with a menu there. And also with the ancient women, they respected themselves as individuals in terms of how the clothing, how they cover their bodies. You know, there's a certain way, and understanding different phases. As a young girl, this is how you grow, this is how you clothe yourself, and when you reach a certain stage, and when you are a married woman. So those dynamics were very critical, because how you wear will surely reveal, are you still a woman, or you're still a girl, and do you have kids, or you no longer have kids? So that distinctive in terms of how we clothe ourselves was one of the things that was done back in the day.
I'll come back to you on that one. I want to throw something on Princess Lona. Having grown up in the palace, having grown up in the midst of royalty, what were the expectations? Can you just maybe take us through the do's and don'ts of being a princess? What made you? I mean, I grew up with my grandmother, and while we were walking past villages, she would even take Vaseline and put it on our lips so that you don't look hungry, so that you don't beg or ask for food, that kind of thing. I grew up in that kind of space where you'd rather be licking Vaseline because you cannot be eating in other people's plates, kind of thing. So I have a little bit of my own history also, having brought up a strong grandmama, you know. But in your own experience, what did it mean growing up in a modern woman? I can see, you know, but having grown up even in this generation in a royal house, what are the do's and don'ts?
Firstly, I would like to say Happy Women's Day to the woman and challenge you a little bit about the way everything is about women nowadays.
Yeah, back
and yes, in my language they say meaning your whip are still coming.
They're still gonna beat me more.
Yes. If you look back, as you always say, we look back to go forward, to move forward. Women had nothing. When I say women had nothing, the pressure in women were not supposed to own the land. Women were not supposed to go out, have fun. The pressure on women. Women, especially in our villages, they were alone, raising children alone when men were not around. So that's why those women went to march, especially with the pass and everything that they had to carry when they are moving, limiting their movement. It shows that we were under pressure.
Okay.
We were pressurized, so allow us to enjoy this.
To take everything.
To take advantage of you, because it is worth it.
We are not winning this one, guys. We are not winning. We are stuck. We went to the mines to look for food and etc. and left women alone. Now we are back. Women own everything. Take me back to your childhood. I want you to get back into the more nitty-gritties, the juicy details. You know, my storytelling and appetite for stories is very high. So I want to hear, growing up in a royal house, what did that mean?
Growing up in a royal house, it was not easy, and it's still not easy, because everything that you do, you represent the royals. Every movement that you do, the way you dress up, the way you speak to people, everything end up reaching the higher place. Even in difficult time, I remember when I was going through abuse in a relationship, in a marriage, and I end up as a typical child, putting in divorce without my parents knowing, because everything that I was doing was representing
on a magnifying glass.
On a magnifying glass.
So you don't live for yourself?
No, you don't live for yourself, because they say you cannot do this because this is a disgrace to the family, because you are representing the Rapatelos. You need to understand that every move that you are making, it's not for you. So it is way too difficult to be in the royal house. It is way too difficult to carry the crown to say, I am a royal. It's not easy. Walking on the street, the behavior that you show to people, you behave otherwise. You don't behave as a normal child. When you do something, because I was like, I liked to fight a lot at school. So they will say, this is the royal child. So obviously it will end up reaching where it's not supposed to be reaching. So it is not easy.
I mean, when I was worse in my case, my father then became a pastor, you know, from my grandfather and my father also. So now we go stealing mangoes or bananas or oranges in the thing. And I never understood why. It would be that it's me who went to steal the mangoes. It's me. And they said, but I only took one. The other guy took a bucket.
Out of all the children, it's supposed to be you. So you are the one they will recognize first.
Yeah.
So you are the champion in it. Even if you didn't steal, but you were accompanying them. You were accomplished. But your name will come first, because you are not supposed to behave like other children.
In terms of rituals, Gogo, in terms of rituals, I want us maybe dig a little bit deeper into the traditional rituals. What was the involvement? What was the involvement of women in terms of the entire community rituals? I'm looking at marriages, I'm looking at funerals, I'm looking at rain-making ceremonies, I'm looking at men going for war, men coming back for war, I'm looking at celebrating of seasons, and the whole word, because I'm driving somewhere, because the modern person, when they look at African culture, they would want to lambast and throw everything to the wall, that women had no place. The place was only for men. And you come up to say, actually, men were not there. So women remained running the homestead. Yes. And that in the homestead means they were running everything. But maybe just without necessarily looking at the colonial era. Yes. If we can go back into ancient times and be able to appreciate what were our old ancient women doing? What was the role, the key roles in the various rituals that were happening within the community, within themselves, and within the greater family itself?
I will answer from my own perspective and understanding, because there's the history behind that is very broad, depending on where one has really sourced the information and also the understanding. Reason I would bring that up is because of in our previous interview, it was very interesting for me and eye-opening when I got to know and find out from our guest when she mentioned that we as women, there's no major need for rituals, and also at the same time understanding that there's also, with different cultures and different tribes, some cultures, they do allow women to participate in rituals. Some cultures, they don't allow women to participate in rituals. I will then speak of to say, for example, with the Xhosa culture, from what I know back in the day, for example, kuthiwa umfazi akangeni esibayeni. Being the traditional healer that I am, I have to be cognizant of that. Ukuthi, when there are rituals that have to be done esibayeni, and there's a reason why things are done esibayeni, and it's one of the things when Inkosi Upungani Bayete Nkosi yami, he would then open it up to make us understand why. Now, during that aspect of when women now having to understand, remember when I mentioned earlier on, women understood their roles. They understood who does what in the family. Now, when it comes to rituals, I'll just redirect the rituals of upbringing family that the women were mostly involved with. When the child is born, mostly women who take up that responsibility to ensure that things like mbeleko, they are done. Now they will take over.
What is mbeleko?
Mbeleko, I don't know what's the English name, but it's a certain ritual that is done to acknowledge the child's birth and to introduce the child to the family and also to the spirits. You know, some kids, they would find that they were I would say ngabantwana belanga, abanye ngabantwana bemvula, and all those things to ensure that they're aligned with their lineage and what have you. And Goku, when this mbeleko is done, it's very critical because it gets to connect you. Remember, when you are inside your mother's womb, you are taking everything your mother is. Now, when you're out, you're now an individual. So that ritual is critical, so that the child can now be known by those lineage people that within her or him. Now, the woman will then be will then ensure that ritual, that introduction it's done, and also then now having to discuss with the males, you know, and having to speak to the partner or the person who I would say utata umntwana, to say we need to do this for umntwana, and also the woman will be the one knowing the actual date when the child was born.
Well,
So,
but on that again, Princess Lona, when you say men, you know, women were excluded, and you're also echoing the same thing that women were excluded from SEG1, for example. Interesting. But men were also not allowed into
when we're giving birth.
We are not also allowed in some certain places where children are being born. Men were not allowed. I remember growing up, my grandmother telling me, go to the bushes there, pick up this and this, bring it here, we are doing this. And we'll all be sitting on the walls there trying to listen and say what. And if you are found behind the hut there, of course, you leave your backside touched there. So I understand the clear distinction between what women could do and what women could not do. But the critical question I want to ask, which you are both not hearing me well, would you run ceremonies, rituals within a family space and women are totally excluded?
I was still going to unpack that.
Yes,
one. And I was starting from the child. Now, when the child is grown up, now whether boy or male or female. Now, when there's certain rituals, now I'll jump it out and say, now leave the upbringing of the child and what have you. Now, when there's certain rituals, for example, that's why you find that each and every home would have Indluka Gogo. I've been mentioning that. That's where most of the rituals will be done.
Indluka Gogo is like the old woman's heart.
Now, there's where now you find that some rituals, normally they'll be performed by ugogo, somebody who's who's past the age of giving birth, who's past the age of engaging intimately. So now you find that is the woman who'll be engaging mostly and having the right of access to be sitting and speaking and doing certain rituals, because as women, as we are the source that be able to connect with the other side. So that mandate has already been given to us by the nature.
I'll pin you down on that one, because I want you to come out clearly. Is African spirituality patriarchal or matriarchal? Because Christianity comes with a patriarch. That Father Abraham, Father this, it's all male, 12 disciples, 12 sons of Jacob, 12, it's all males, male, boom, done. You come to African space right now, I hear you talking about Indluka Gogo, Umsamo, for example, and you are giving me a clear indication from what you are saying that heart is not the heart where patriarch is in space. It is a space where Ugogo runs the spirituality of the entire family. Is it your understanding, therefore, to suggest that the African spirituality, it is founded on the grand matriarch rather than on the grand patriarch?
Kamako, it is like that. For example, when I was looking to just introduce the side of whereby when we're talking of spirituality, we're talking of indigenous healers. We don't look at whether you're male or female. There's no male or female within that aspect. You know, we both, when we are sitting together, we respect each other based on our spirituality enlightenment. We even know when we say gogo omkhulu, we're just respecting the person who's been with you, or the person that resides in you, or the person that has come back through you. So it's just a matter of respecting that. But now, when it comes to now say ugogo wenza ama rituals, even men, you know, would be able then to come and participate in those rituals. To understand. And also, if I remember very well, that back in the days, that is why when our men had to go, and when they have to go to fight, go to wars and what have you, women will have to give the blessing. So that's the power that they had. To understand, those are the certain rituals that they have to now say, they do just to say, okay, now giving them the blessing, and then they step back, and then us as indigenous healers.
So you basically send the men to war? Because it was a critical ritual. Because some men, while not sending them to war, some men will not come back. So the whole ceremony actually centered around the participation and the women's involvement, emotional and support and encouragement as men are going to war. In your own experience, Gogo Lona, Sis Lona, Princess Lona, what would you reflect in terms of African spirituality and the involvement of women in that space?
African spirituality and women in the royals, I can say the royals are matriarchy, not patriarchy, because
wow,
it's very important for Khadi to be there, even if it's 100 of men. But if Khadi comes in, now everything can go on. But before she comes in, everything will stop until Khadi comes in.
Khadi, who is Khadi? Khadi is the grand matriarch, the aunt.
Khadi is the aunt.
The sister.
Khadi is the advisor to the king. There's no king without a woman. A woman lead from the back. And then there comes Master J saying, I'm a king. Everything that he says is not from him. It's from
I'm actually reminded of the Swazi monarch, for example, and other Southern African monarchs like Lesotho, which I've had some personal contact with, that actually have the two palaces across the road, one for the king himself and the mother. And then depending on the issue that you are bringing, you have directed either, hey, this one will be discussed from there, this one discussed from here. But even after discussing with the king here, then you lay that, no, he has gone there to make an inquiry. And the whole residence, for example, Umhlanga, is not handled and is not carried out from the royal house of the king. It is actually hosted by the queen, you know.
Yes, you can continue.
So it is very important for women to be recognized, because right now, if you get sick, the first word that is going to come to you when you are closer to your master, when you're closer to your creator, it's mama. Even when you see that I am going, the first word that you say, it's mama. Even when a child is born, when a child learns to speak, the first word that comes out, it's mama. Matriarchy is very important. And we should take that into consideration. We cannot look down on our ancestor. As my king once said, when you marry a woman, your ancestors take your blessings to give that woman. So when you chase that woman out,
you're chasing away your blessings.
You're chasing away your blessings. You'll be surprised when nothing is happening, nothing is adding up. You work, you have a lot of money, but you do nothing with that money. And she doesn't even work, but she do everything with every cent that she gets, because all your blessings has been transferred.
Wow. We'll be back right after the break as we are continuing the conversation here with the two wonderful women I have here, Princess Lorna from the Greater Kingdoms in up north in South Africa here, Gogo Majola, who is an indigenous healer in the space, and we will be waiting for King Bungane, who will be on his way to pick up the conversation even to a higher level. Don't go away, back right after the break.
Tech Talk brought to you by Tamani Technologies and Systems. Tamani Technologies and Systems takes leadership in fourth industrial revolution. The whole world is facing a transformation. The revolution will be developed into the following stages: digitization, cyber security, Internet of Things, managed services, document management, and business applications. We provide business transformation and ICT solutions with presence in 13 African countries and 2 European countries. We are your leading partner in integrated platform providers, innovation leaders, standalone products, and innovation pace setters. Tamani Technologies and Systems, delivering value across continents.
Feel the heat.
Chicken portions are an easy way to feed a crowd.
I've just started to incorporate all my ingredients.
We're gonna put this inside of a hot cast iron skillet.
You want to really fill up on great protein.
It's now time to sample the chef's dish. Look at this.
I know.
Like that?
Feel the excitement.
The chicken is on the spot.
Feel the heat with StarSat.
Welcome all, and thank you very much for joining us on this wonderful show where we're having a conversation here around the ancient ways. Why do we do this? Because we want to know where we are coming from so that we can know where we are going. Right now, many of us are struggling in our homes, struggling in terms of child upbringing, the issues of bringing wealth and developing communities and families that are sustainable. And it's my sincere understanding that some of the mistakes that we are committing are as a result of not understanding the past, where we are coming from. I cut you short just before the break. You're also going to be inserting some stuff there on the rituals as she was responding to the African spirituality and the involvement of women. Over to you, madam.
Kamaku. I wanted to also to enlighten that the rituals, the role of a woman when it comes to rituals also is very broad, whereby women being baphiwe isiphiwo sokukwazi ukuconnecta. You know, they connect with that is their space whereby they can be able to connect with the spirituality world. They then be able to come back and this is the message I received from the gods. This is the message I received from they say Abandabadala, this is how we need to do it. And for example, I'll just flip back and say make an example about the issue that Maria wafika ingelosi epusheni. Why didn't the ngelosi go to Joseph, but it went to Maria? You know, because of the high, she's a woman and connection. It's always transferred easily. I'm not saying men are not aligned with spirituality, but in this case, that's why but umama winziga yekaya, and umama, she's the one that pulls everyone together. Umama, she's the protector. Even though as much men are protectors of the family on the physical space, but umama is the one that protects on the spirituality side. And also, when I'm going to take it from the angle yeti, when it comes to the Christianity, they always say you must have a prayerful woman, because when your woman is praying for you and you know you can go and fight any war. Do you understand? So now coming to
I've seen a book, the power of a praying woman. You know.
Now when you take that concept was taken from the fact that women are the ones that you find that when they given their space and time, they know that they easily connect, you know, and be able to transfer messages from the other side, which is now when it comes to the actual physical rituals, you find that women would tend to be told that now you cannot enter into this particular space, you cannot touch this meat, you cannot eat that meat for certain reasons, because understanding that women, we have our monthly rituals. So we may not know at that time whether you're in your monthly ritual or not, you know. Now that is why it's safer that some of the rituals, when they're done, the role is done physically by men.
Being advantage to have both of you on the table, I will have fun here. I will have fun. Let me throw it at you, because she's here, she will moderate it. In terms of the diet of the old girls in the olden days, what are some of the things that you were told not to eat? And then I would want you to respond from the indigenous knowledge system. Why were these things not allowed, not permissible for our young girls to participate in? And even if we can look into our generation now in the 21st century, are we now at liberty to eat those things? And what are the ramifications of feeding 10 to 15 eggs to a young girl who is 4, 5, 6 years old? because you want it to grow fast. What does it mean to grow fast? I'm just giving that as an example. But in your own experience, if you remember well, what were some of the foods and the meats as a young girl you were told, hey, you don't eat that, you don't touch that, you don't eat that?
You know, Master J, food is very important. When my grandmother was like, it's taboo, and then we came back to say, taboo has died.
When she died, you said taboo. Oh, you were saying taboo has died. You were challenging.
Taboo has died, meaning I can eat anything that I want. In my language, they will be saying "diaila usule," and you know what they were telling us. It was very important. The food that we are supposed to be eating, the rich food, because if you look at it today, a male my age, that's why you were seeing back then an elderly man has to marry a younger woman because women grows fast. If you feed your child X, as you say, 6X, if you feed your child, your baby girl, cheese, rich food, then the baby just grow otherwise. Then growing otherwise meaning everything that comes with the grow. You know, they say if you open the windows for fresh air and the mosquito comes in or the flies comes in, you're supposed to be taking care of the flies and the fresh air because you open the window. So things that comes with growing up or growing fast, it's hectic. Even the diseases comes with growing faster. The rich food that we were not supposed to be eating. Imagine right now a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old sing the cycle. Back then, cycles were starting at the age of 18.
18?
Yes.
16, 18, you know, you're mature.
You're mature, so that's when you start purity stage. That's where you start seeing your menstruation cycle. That's where you start developing your boobs. But right now, it's hectic.
At 5? 6-year-old.
6-year-old.
She's already on her period.
It's already on her period. And what's going to happen after that?
Wow. Gogo Mvoko, respond to that one there.
My response on that one would be to say that there's two aspects to it that I would like to bring forth. When we have to look into indigenous healers, when you have to go through the training process, we are restricted not to eat certain foods. And the reason that is because those kinds of food, they have got a physical and a spiritual negative impact on a human being or the body of a person. For example, and also for the fact that when you eat dairy products, you know, as my princess has mentioned here, that those kind of food, the rich foods, it activates certain hormones to now run faster than the time it has to be. Now, when we are then in that phase of not eating your dairy products, not eating chocolates and alcohol and all that, the eggs and what have you, and that is now, you're being excluding yourself from the food. When you look back in the days, I'm going to link it now, that is now the space of.
And you're mentioning also the meats, you know, the certain type of meats that.
Certain meats that you don't eat based on the fact that those meats will represent certain things in the ritual space when you're having certain rituals. Like umalamohodu, we're not supposed to eat, you know, because those are the insides of any insides of an animal. And there's a reason on a spiritual aspect that you're not supposed to eat those meat. And also the pig, you're not supposed to eat because there's
I'm excited about that, because Christianity comes around now and says everything was crucified on the cross. The blood of Jesus cleansed everything. So Christianity right now eats pigs, bacon, half bacon, and etc. Tell us from a traditional indigenous knowledge system what was allocated, what was identified with the pig, and why were you not allowed to eat it?
From my own understanding that the pig as an animal, that when you look into it, you can't classify what the pig eats. You can't say it eats grass or it eats other animals. It just eats everything. So now when you're in that space, you need to understand yourself that I cannot just be eating everything. You know, I need to cleanse myself from any animals or any spiritual being. When I say spiritual being, even the pig, it's in its own, it's an animal. It carries its own spirit. So that spirit that swallows everything that you don't even know what, it's taking all the bad spirits and it's just mixing up. So it's a mixture of confusion, so to speak. So from that angle, say detach yourself from being even allowing such to be part of you when during that space.
See, and what you're saying is critical, because I have argued with many of my pastor friends who in the name of the New Testament doctrine have become all-inclusive in terms of their eating. And secondly, I've argued also that the Bible does not introduce to the African the Hebrew way of life. This is an African story. Because now if you would find that in our own indigenous knowledge system, what the Bible would say in its rituals in Leviticus 11 and 23, don't eat this, don't eat this. And you come up to an African person and actually find that Africans have always lived. So we did not teach the Torah. We lived it because this was part of our culture. And I'm actually excited to hear you mention those issues of diet. We might need to take you, Gogo Mfoko, as an indigenous healer and take you to Christian churches and teach them that what they are doing is not biblical. Because in African culture, this is actually not acceptable, as much as the Bible also does not accept it. So the question is, when Christianity does it, who is their God? And what are they listening to? Because they are not neither agreeing with culture, nor agreeing with the Bible. So they've come up with this European form of expressing themselves. And tell me how many diseases are coming with an uncontrolled diet. Tell me how many diseases are coming with an uncontrolled drinking habit. Tell me how many diseases are coming with contraceptions. Tell me how many diseases are coming. So when we look at ancient ways, and I really want you ladies to come up strong. You're still talking very nicely and warm. We're at war here. Because the modern girl looks at ancient culture and she says, I want nothing to do with that. That is demonic. Okay, show me the angel. The angel is holding an ice cream. The angel is holding a pizza. The angel is holding a slice of bread with 4 eggs sliced, sprinkled with cheeses and etc. Now this is heaven for her. Mukhodu, Maheu, and what do you call this traditional porridge? Ndengane, Mabele, yak kind of stuff. What is the good stuff? It's a can of Coke, a bit of acid,
cornflakes.
Mix me this and this, and give me some cornflakes, and give me some yogurts to eat. And when you look at it, so I want you ladies maybe to really dig your heels into the past and justify for me. Tell me, why do I need to have my life in the 21st century using the software of the previous century?
Can I just continue?
Yes.
I want to bring light to the fact that ngokwesintu engisaziyo bekunduba kuthiwa kuneyintombi ezikube zinamaqhikiza, whereby I understand the part yokuthi bayahlolwa and all that, but I want to bring the part yokutya, whereby that's why when you're ukula as a child, when you're a female child, when you reach a certain stage, you can eat these particular foods as if usesentwasweni. I wanted to bring that to say there's that relationship. Now you don't eat certain foods, you don't drink utywala, you don't do this when you are a female, a girl, up until you reach a certain age. That was done not only because the abantwana ngamathwasa, that was the way that the upbringing had to be. Coming back to what my princess was mentioning, Koti, that is why even the puberty, the cycles would start later.
Was delayed.
Because it was delayed, because those kind of rich food and unhealthy are activating now. Abantwana bakhalweze babe fertile enough that they feel that now they can.
I mean, an 8-year-old girl who is pregnant.
Yes.
At 11 years old. old girl who is pregnant.
So now there's this other aspect that I would like us to look into, Guti. The reason we say that, the reason that with this particular way of lifestyle, yokuya izinto now, it's not really recommended because it has brought up a lot of children pregnancies. Because now the hormones, the children don't know how to control this. It gets confusing in their heads. Now they start experimenting. So whereas back in the days, we were controlling that aspect, that at least when the child is about certain age, now 16, 17, that's why you find that most of our mothers married when they're 17, others when they're 18. Because now at that time, now they were now released that you're
My mother was 16 when she got married. Yeah.
Now, because she was then released, so now you are ready to be a woman. You are now given a freedom to start eating the eggs. I grew up like that, and knowing that eggs are not supposed to eat every day. My mom would be like, "Hey, I'm a kanda." You understand? Every day. You understand? I'm like, okay, mama. But I then she had to sit me down and
not everything that is nice is healthy.
Thank you. Yeah, so it is when it's taking back to say about even us as parents. About 5-6 months. I know it's mistakes that we do. Hey, others they're not even more than 5 years already. They're taking these I would say superficial hormones, hormonal food. Now, this picture is very broad because looking at the fact that even the food that we eat, it's superficial. Asakwazi ukulima, whereas back in the days bekulinywa ukutya besitya imifino elinyiweyo sithini, so it was easier to manage ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi sitye ukutya that will enrich us and make us stronger as young females and young women. So I'm just linking up with that fact ukuthi understanding ukuthi in our days with so-called modern lifestyle, it's modern but it's killing us. It's not modern for us to live for the next generation. It's not modern for us to build this nation, this current generation for the future generation. Because modern as it is, we find a high rate of abantwana abazala besibancinci and who don't even know what to do.
They've not even enjoyed their teenagers.
They haven't really enjoyed their womanhood.
Played as girls. You know, in my ancient days, we used to dance in the rain. We used to go swimming. And I actually remember boys and girls who would be swimming in the same pool. And
exactly.
It never crossed our minds at that age that there was something hanging between a woman's leg, except worrying that you are different, you are what, but it was not an issue to concentrate on. It would be all of us jumping in a pool and having fun and playing and etc. But you can't risk that now.
No.
Putting a 5-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl in one tub to bath them together before you start seeing signals picking up in all wrong directions.
Because it's what we're feeding in our bodies that now becomes a reflection out there.
Princess Lon, it's Women's Day. It's Women's Month and Women's Day. And here you are talking to women across the continent, talking to women right now who are sitting in their lounges. Some are sitting on their beds. Some are on their way to the shops to going to buy some foods. You are talking to women in the 21st century. Send a word.
By the way, one other thing about pigs. Pigs eat human.
Pigs eat human beings also.
They eat human beings.
That's why I said it eats everything. It consumes all the spirits.
So imagine you're eating your own.
Come on.
So pigs are part of the women, of the human beings, because they eat human beings.
I even heard of a story once where an old woman forgot her child at the rubbish dump because the child was helping themselves. And the pig came and ate what was behind them and followed up and actually chewed up where it came from.
And the pig can give birth and eat the children.
Its own children. Its
own children. So coming back to the fancy way of loving our kids, we are feeding our children to death. Whatever that our children are consuming now, I always say people are loving themselves so much that they want to kill them. You know, imagine a baby, a young boy at the crèche, honey. A young boy at the crèche, the one who's supposed to know nothing. That's why you see even our government try to teach our children about sexual matters, that mommy and daddy, when they are sleeping, they are doing 1, 2, 3, because they realize that we are losing it and we have lost it. And we're supposed to be going back.
You are saying a child who is at creche.
At creche.
And they are horny.
And they are horny, and that's why you see all these things going on social media and videos of children doing funny things at the creche.
At creche.
You can imagine, what is it that makes that young boy like that? I grew up with my uncles. We were running around sprinkling each other with water naked. It was okay. We were sleeping with our uncles. You know, my mother's brothers are almost our age. We were sleeping together. They will just put a mat.
A big mat and
a big mat on the floor, and then we just sleep, and then we pee.
And I think maybe we peed on each other. And I think for me, it also developed this healthy, yes, it developed a healthy relationship, that you could actually be in a blanket with a female.
And nothing happens.
And there's no sexuality as an issue. You grew up with... we'll be coming back right after the break. I want us to expand on this thing quite extensively. Is it the reason that maybe many of our young boys and girls no longer have healthy relationships without necessarily thinking about sex?